Crash reporting is an essential piece of building mobile and desktop applications. In fact, any application. You need to be alerted when exceptions happen in your application, whether they're the complete sort of exceptions that you're not handling or the ones that you're catching, and you want to make sure you're reporting it back to put it into your system. To do this in .NET MAUI applications, there's a bunch of different services, and today I'm going to show you how to use Raygun to integrate into your .NET MAUI and .NET MAUI hybrid applications in just a few minutes to start reporting back exceptions and other information as well. So tune in. Hey everyone, I'm James, and today we're going to be talking about crash reporting. Yes, crash reporting. So like whenever exceptions and crashes happen in your application, wouldn't it be great to actually be alerted when that's happening so you don't have to wait for those 1-star reviews or email reports from your users? Well, there's tons of different services out there, and I've used one called Raygun for a long time in a bunch of my different .NET applications. And today I'm going to break down everything you need to know about Raygun, how to integrate it into .NET MAUI, and some additional reporting that you can do. So let's go ahead and check it out. All right, the first thing you want to go do is go to raygun.com. You can check out their different products that they have, including crash reporting, real user monitoring, APM, and a bunch more as well. They have beautiful dashboards, different integrations into all sorts of different frameworks, including, of course, .NET and .NET MAUI. So you can check out their pricing as well. They have a free trial to get started, and that's what I've done over here. I've logged in, and I can create my very first application. So I'm just going to call it my MAUI app. And here you can have different team members and things like that you want to get alerted. So for this, I'm just going to turn off all alerts. You probably actually want to turn on some like maybe weekly errors, kind of coming in, updates coming in, email, maybe a daily summary. You can also get notified on all new errors if you want. So based on how much you want to do that. But they also have integrations directly into other systems as well. So if you are specifically looking for integrations into like GitHub or into Teams or Slack or things like that, they have that as well. So here you can see I have my application and you can select your programming language. So this is pretty cool. They support pretty much everything under the sun. So no matter what you're building, they probably have a deep integration for you, which is really great. So you have one solution to kind of handle everything. Here you can see that there's .NET MAUI. So you can select MAUI to get started. This will give you your key and everything that you need right here. Okay, I have a brand new .NET MAUI application, literally file new. Over here, I've modified nothing at all. This is just my standard button clicker type of application, everything that you could ever want. So nothing crazy fancy going on here. So the first thing that we're going to do is come in and say manage NuGet packages. And we're going to go to browse, and we are going to look for Raygun for MAUI. That's a kind of a fun name. I like it. Here we go. So you can simply install this one NuGet package, and that will give you everything that you need. So this is just kind of standard NuGet package, all the stuff that you would want to get started. So we'll let that install really quick. All right, so it is also bringing in a lot of the Microsoft extensions. This deeply ties into the logging system, which is very nice as well. There's a bunch of things that are being brought in here. It uses sort of modern .NET idioms and things like that, which is really, really nice. Okay, so now what we want to do is get started with Raygun. And in fact, all you need to do is go into that portal and you'll copy this one line of code, add Raygun for MAUI with your key. So by the time you watch this, of course, I will wipe away my key, but you'll put your key in here. So all I have to do here in my MAUI program is come in and simply add that in. That will also add this using statement up top. So Raygun for MAUI, and there's my API key. And that's literally all you need to do, 100%. Now, if you look at this specific, we can see that there is an API key, but you can also pass in these Raygun for MAUI settings. And if you take a look at the documentation, you can take a look at some of the defaults. So for example, here, you can put in your API key, you can send default tags, which are true, default custom data, you can have min and max log levels. So you can really customize this as you would like. But I'm just gonna leave the defaults for now inside of here. All right, so with one line of code, what does that give you? It actually gives you a lot. So if we go into this main program, let's say here, if for example, count equals 5, let's just throw a new exception. So I'm gonna say throw new exception. This is a error because 5 is not my lucky number. for some reason. That's a terrible message, but imagine something goes on in your application and you throw this exception. So something is happening anywhere in your code. There's a null reference exception. This is an argument exception. This is an exception. It's not caught anything like that 100%. Let's go ahead and run this on our device and let's see what happens. All right, so our app is up and running and we have this beautiful Hello World application. And if we go back into the portal here, we can see that we're waiting for error events to occur. So nothing's happened here. So let's go ahead and simply click around 2, 3, 4, 5, and we get an exception thrown. There's the exception that comes through and we continue on and our application is surely going to crash. Now our application is crashed because this is an unhandled exception. Now let's head back over into the portal and this may take a few minutes to show up, but for me, it took about 10 seconds or so. And we see our very first error that's coming into the system. So this happened automatically. It was an uncaught exception and the Raygun processed this automatically and sent it out to be alerted. So here I can say, here's my error message 1 minute ago from one user, and we can say information here. So if I zoom in a little bit more, we can see when it occurred, the type of exception, that it was an unhandled exception in Android. So these tags were automatically handled for me, which is nice. I can go a bit deeper and I can actually see information on the stack trace, which was really, really nice coming in. So I can see exactly where those buttons and the click events were happening on my code there. I can go get a little bit more information as well. So again, here's the error details. Here's the environment. So I can see the machine type, the available memory and memory account processors and device manufacturers. This is an emulator, so it's not going to be as good, but you get a lot of information. You get these custom data, so you can add additional tags if you want. You can add comments as a team member. And then you get the raw data. So there's going to be all the raw data coming in. So if you want to ingest this as JSON, you can see that as well, which is really, really cool. So this all comes in 100%. And then we can see any of the oldest alerts and new alerts that are coming in. You can also set up integration. So like I said, if you wanted to, you could tie this into your different systems automatically, which is really, really nice. And of course, you can add and request more integrations as well. So it's really, really nice to see them all there. All right, so this is cool because I get my crash reporting. I can click on this, I can get alerted on it, and I can add different filters as well. I could mark this as resolved because I fixed this. So I could change this. I could ignore it if I wanted to, because it's in a build, developer build. But here, for example, I can get this all set up. Let's do a few other things. Let's go back into our code and let's say, well, I didn't just have an exception. Let's just say I went in and I did a try catch here. So this would be good. I'm going to come in, I'm going to move all of this code into the try catch and I'll say EX, and I want to actually handle this myself, right? So we get an exception. I'm going to handle it in my code and I want to go ahead and boot that up and send that to Raygun. Now this is often what you might be doing inside of your application because, there are unhandled exceptions, which are great, but there's a lot of exceptions that we just sort of, suck up into our code. We log and we do other things. So what I can do is I can say Raygun MAUI client dot. Now this is pretty cool. Inside of here, I can get access to my current client and I can send in the background different types of things. So if I say send, there's send async, send in background, for example. And if we take a look at this, if I do send in background, I can just send an exception, which is nice. I can send exceptions, a list of tags, custom data, custom information that's going on here, anything that you want. So I'm just going to go ahead and say .send here. There we go. I might want to send in background, but I'll just say EX. There we go. That'll be kind of cool. And now we'll go ahead and run the application again and we'll send this. So you're going to want to decide in your application where you'd want to send in background, send asynchronously, how you're going to display that to your users automatically. So let's go ahead and let this build and let's see it again in action. All right, awesome. So now I'm just going to go ahead and click around. And sure enough, as we saw, I didn't crash this time, which is great. And if we take a look back in the portal over here, let me go ahead and refresh. We'll now see that the count over here is 2. So if I click on this exception, we're going to see that we have one event that has happened multiple times right here when those instances are coming in. And I can go through those different reports inside of here, which is nice on those different dates that are coming in. So now I have this automatically coming in, which is nice. If I go back here and I go into send, I can do a few other things, such as send in a list of tags. So for example, that might be nifty to understand what page it's in, so I can see all the exceptions on a specific page. I could also pass in a dictionary of custom user information. But if I actually send it in the background and do send in background, I get a few more information snippets that I can send. So I'm going to send in that exception. Let's pass in a new list of string like we did before. And I'm going to say main page. So just we can kind of get that access. So I'm going to have the main page, and I'm not going to do any custom user data, but we are going to do this Raygun identifier message. So I'm going to do new Raygun identifier message, and I'm going to pass in a user. So I'm going to say James Montemagno. Maybe that's my user ID, for example. And you can specify other information too. So if I know the first name, identifier, if it's anonymous or not, all sorts of different things. I'm just going to say first name James, for example, there, and then I'll close it off and send it. So now let's go ahead and run the application again and see what type of information shows up in the portal for me. All right, so our application is up and running again. And since we're handling this exception, when we click on the 5th time, there we don't get any stutter or anything like that in our application because we're now sending it in the background. Okay, so back in the portal, what we can see over here is that I now have 3 count. So when I tap on this, what we're going to notice is that I get custom tags here. So I probably want to send in additional tags into here besides just main page. But what we see down here is that we get affected users, James Montemagno, we get the machine information, and we get our normal error information coming in here about the user now and about the tags that I have. So that is actually really, really nice. And we're seeing over on the right-hand side, the affected users, and we can tap on them and we can see me. So there's me, James Montemagno. I could see additional session information if I was tracking that. And then here I am getting my errors that are coming in. So that is super nice to be able to come in and then link users together via the identifier and tie that back into the crash reporting, which is really, really nice. Okay, so far, if we take a look at the code, we can note that we are now sending this out. This is all happening in real time. This is where the exception is happening, which is really, really nice. But we may want to send a little bit more information. And that's where logging comes in. So if we note over here, yeah, there is this debugger logging coming in, but there is an iLogger built in automatically to .NET MAUI, and specifically when we're using Raygun for MAUI. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into my builder and I'm going to say builder.services.add singleton, and I'm going to add my main page because we are going to use specifically constructor injection. If I go into my main page, I can now go to the top and I can say iLogger for main page, and I'll say logger. Perfect. So now if I want to go ahead and grab this logger, we are simply going to say this dot logger equals logger and go from there. And now we can use this logger to output different types of information, which is super great. So for example, if I come down into this information here, I could say logger dot, and I have a bunch of different options for logging. So critical, debug, error, information, logging traces, for example, logging all sorts of different things. So I'm just going to go in and just say log information. I'm going to say, yeah, just, here's a counter text that's being output, and I could output that information if that was really, really helpful for me. I could also come down here and I could say, okay, I actually want to do log dot log, and then I could say log level, and I'll say, error, for example, and then I could add information here. I could say, here's the exception. I could say this happened in the click event, for some reason. If I'm handling specific types of information, I could go ahead and handle this automatically. So both of these will eventually basically send these things automatically into the logger, which is nice, but you can then specify information levels going in here, and you could then decipher between these. So for example, I could maybe handle like unhandled exception. I guess this one is handled. So this would be a handled exception here. And then maybe I want to do like, device info dot platform. I could do device, I guess, .toString. There we go. which would be nice. So I could then make sure that that's Android, for example, and pass those back up and get that type of different information. Now, for some reason you weren't using this type of dependency injection, you can go over here and grab the logger service from the MAUI context as well. So you could grab that automatically here. Want to do some null checking along the way, but you could grab that service automatically. But of course, dependency injection is super nice. So now let's go ahead and run this application again, and we should see a whole lot of more information coming into the system, which would be really nice. So let's let it compile up and take a look. All right, our application is here. I'm just going to go ahead and pull up my application in Raygun over to the side, and let's go back over here to the main app dashboard. There we go. All right, so here we can see like the last information's coming in. I'm just going to start clicking around over here, and we're just going to click a few times. We are logging different information that's coming into the system. We are now logging some exceptions that are coming into the system automatically. And if I go in and refresh this page, we should start to see all of those different exceptions coming in. So we have information here about the number of times clicked, if you won that every single time, the exception that occurred, and we get this information all coming into the system. Now from here though, what we can do is we can go in and add filters. So we could take a look at operating systems, we could do versioning, we could do machine names, so we could say if it's resolved, but I could say tags, I could say it's equal to, and it'll show me all of the specific ones that we have. So if I want to see only unhandled exceptions, this will show me that original unhandled exception. If I want to see only things that were coming in for information, now we're getting all of the information tags coming in, which is nice. So that is really nice to be able to come in and actually specify this types of information coming in. So if we want to see only Android, if we want to see only iOS or only Windows, we have that information readily available. So again, if I go and take a look at those errors that were coming in, we could see that this is the handled exception, Android main page. We get all those tags coming in automatically, and we can now go through this different information, see what's going on, right? It's the same exception, but it's handled here, it's handled differently, and we're getting that information in near real time, which is really great. Now back over here, there is a few different pieces of information that I said you could add. So for example, you could say Raygun MAUI client, and then .current . And then there are different things in here, like the application version, which you might want to specify, which would be nice. You could add different user and user information here, which you could then specify. So it's there the entire time for everything coming in, which would also be nice. You could add additional information so that we don't have to tag it every single time. So if you are having your users log in, that's a nice way to do it. So that might be something you may want to add, which is awesome. All right, well, that is just a sample of integrating Raygun into your applications in just a few minutes to do error handling and crash reporting and add that additional tracing and logging information. You do get a lot of nice information with Raygun, and of course they support a whole bunch of different things. This video is not at all sponsored by Raygun, like I said earlier. It's just a service that I've used for a while in some of my different applications, and I just thought that it'd be nice to kind of talk about that sort of exception handling for your .NET MAUI applications. Now, if you are a .NET developer, Raygun has all sorts of different integrations, no matter what you're doing, and that standard .NET set of functionality, they have grouping, they have a whole bunch of other things, works everywhere. So definitely give it a look and check out that. They do have, obviously, they're a paid service, but they do have a free trial, so you can check it out into your applications. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and of course, hit that subscribe button, because I put out videos here nearly every single week on my YouTube about .NET, .NET MAUI, Visual Studio, and so much more. If you want to see some other content specific to this type of exception or analytics, let me know. Put comments down there in the show notes or other services you're using. I'd love to check them out as well. All right, that's going to do it for this one. So until next time, thanks for watching.